Hello everyone and welcome to Grove. My name is Samurai Red, but some of you may know me as Hawk from my main channel, which I shall link in the description. But for now, Memento Mori and happy Unus Annus Day to everyone who is celebrating. And if you don't, or you simply just don't know what I'm talking about, that's okay. This video is primarily about the Lady of Death in my main writing world. Her name is Aerona, and she is definitely among my favorite characters that I have ever created. So, the first instance of Aerona, at least under that name that I could find, is from a document in September of 2017, which details basically Aerona getting framed for murder by one of the other characters and then clearing her name. And I found out that while reading that document that she is, even then, back then, she was directly stated, it was directly stated that she had the role of death. So like the Green Reaper. So it makes sense that she just kept that characterization as I started to bring her into other works. One of these other works that I would end up bringing her into would be The Maker's Mansion, which would be the NaNoWriMo for that year. NaNoWriMo stands for National Novel Writing Month, and it's a writing challenge where the participants, such as me, write 50,000 words in a month. So I got a lot of work done on specifically her and her characterization because she ended up being one of the two main protagonists. There are three main POV characters that I had, and she was one of them. This is completely accidental. One of the things I liked about that year for The Maker's Mansion is that I let what I wanted the plot to happen, let that choose the protagonists, and then from there I just base the plot off the characters. So she just ended up naturally becoming one of the main characters, so I got a lot of characterization from her specifically. I did remember that I chose her name specifically after looking up different meanings, so I decided to go back and find specifically what her name meant, because I remember, it means carnage or slaughter, which is true, but it also means like berries, and it also means the ending of a battle. The ending of a battle makes sense because it's linked to a Celtic goddess linked to war and death. I didn't intentionally mean this because I didn't remember ever looking at the Celtic goddess when I was characterizing her, so any similarities are completely accidental, especially since she acts more like Anubis from Egyptian mythology instead of like a war goddess. But during Maker's Mansion, aka that NaNoWriMo book, she ended up having different traits, such as she liked building. That's actually one of the main, at the beginning of the novel, because I went to look back and read some of it, that's what she was doing. And then one of my favorite scenes is when she's actually painting and talking to one of the other characters. So that's just one of the things you've learned about her. For her backstory in that book, she actually was one of the people who was very unbiased when it came to sort of, at school. She was somebody who could just not take sides. The problem is that she had brothers and they had a conflict, and then her friends decided to take sides in that conflict, and she just felt stuck because she could see how some people were wrong, some people right. Neither side was like more right or wrong than the other, and so out of stress, she ended up choosing to put on a VR headset that she knew was infected with a virus that would basically get you stuck into VR, and that's where she started the book. Then she continued, and throughout the book, she ends up getting framed for murder and then clearing her name. That is her major plot line through that book. And one interesting detail which I decided to put in my notes is that she ends the book by reaping the soul of a tree. I don't know why I decided to have that be the ending of the book, but it made sense in context because it was a very important tree. But in hindsight, why did the tree have a soul? There's no reason for that tree to have a soul. It made no sense. But you know what? Fine, past me. That works. And one thing about that book is that it actually is the second instance of Aerona doesn't have her have any sort of specific sexuality or romantic interest during the book of Maker's Mansion, she actually does. She's actually one of the earliest characters which has a clear, well, not clear-ish, but as I decided to write her, she ended up with a more complex, I say for lack of word, but more complex sexual identity than I had in previous books. So Aerona is a biromantic asexual, and that was partially accidental but partially on purpose. When I first wrote the summary in 2017, in the September of 2017, I knew, like, oh, it'd be cute for her to get together with the person she, like, got framed for killing, because they ended up being friends. And then that sort of carried over into the book as well. But I'm like, she doesn't seem like she'd be someone who is too interested in romance. So that ended up how I ended up making her asexual. But I'm like, she still likes the romance. So that's how she ended up becoming like an asexual who was also a romantic character. But she also became biromantic because I wanted her involved with one of the like romance plot lines, but it was like a very simple one, and so she was pretty just casual. She's like, yeah, date to the other person in the triangle. Well, she's like, yeah, you can date him. I'm cool not dating him. So that sideline, that is just a fun sideline where she is not straight, and I think that's an interesting detail. She is cis, though. She is cisgender, so born a girl and always felt like a girl. So, and she does technically, it's implied, it's not directly stated, but it is implied that she gets with Taya, the girl who got killed and who she had been framed in murdering. So there's that. So that's her sort of what she is in the Maker's Mansion. And then technically I say technically, but like a few details were switched when she became a deity in my custom D&D setting called Masmyra. I can't remember how I ended up making it pronounced, but it doesn't matter because she ends up as this deity of both death but also knowledge called Umbria. And I literally just copied and pasted in my notes for this episode, I just copied and pasted the notes that I specifically have of Umbria. So Umbria is the oldest deity of like the main deities by like the big creation entity, and she can actually shift between a dragon and a dragonborn form, being like silver in both, although she ends up also having connections to elves because I thought of her as an elf. So that's interesting. She's also known as the Head Reaper or Mother Time, depending on which role she needs stressing. Other names include Aerona, which, again, taken from the main character that I was basing off her, and that's specifically for the elves where it stresses the death side of things, and Crona, which, yes, is reference to Kronos, and is sort of like the desert area, and that stresses like the time. So she is sort of the one that looks over death as well as the idea of knowledge and time, and I don't know how to explain that well, but it sort of makes sense in context. Trying to think of a good way to describe it. Basically think if the one over knowledge and time got combined with the Green Reaper, that's sort of what I was going for. And so that leads me to today, this year, which I decided, it'd be fun if I did this character. It was not this character. I also considered doing a different character for this year, but I'm like, you know what? I'm also going to be trying this on Halloween, so I'll just do this, my Lady of Death, because she's a fun character, and I would totally play her if I got the chance in a D&D campaign where she's just a warlock or something, or some other sort of tabletop setting, because I do like the character a lot, and I would like to expand on her. I just don't know how to do that. I also don't know how death works in the Grove, so that's fun. And that's all of my notes about like the character beforehand. and I may have not said that in the same way, and I apologize if I was a bit rambly, but I do think I said everything I needed to, so let's move on to the specific art. And I'm looking at the speed paint footage, and I am struggling with that foot. It took me so long to try and figure it out. So, but I did want to have this sort of outfit, which looked like sleek, I guess is the best way I can put it. I wanted her to have a simple outfit because that's more of my style, but also because it just makes sense for her to not go flashy and detailed, but something more toned down, and maybe she would be even wearing the uniform that her followers or the other Reapers that she would be working with. So she would try to appeal to being, yeah, I'm just like you, I'm one of you, by actually wearing the uniform itself. That's one of the reasons why it's so simple, but also sort of looks like something you could wear as a uniform. And I wanted her to get a staff, so I added a staff. I had a couple of different designs, and this is the one that I ended up going with. It's simple, just like she would be. She's definitely someone who doesn't think of the flashy side of things. She's very much form and function over fashion. And the scales I mentioned earlier about Anubis, sort of weighing the decisions of somebody who had in their life. And so that's where that sort of comes from. I did sort of had the idea of maybe some magic going across that middle bit, but I kind of forgot about it. So it's left off in the final image. And so I just don't have it. So there's that. Originally, she was going to be a skeleton, but I kind of forgot about it, and I really wanted her to have ears because of the elvish connection. I always think of her as being some sort of elf. I'm not entirely sure why. So there is that. And I decided to have it be bat ears because I think bat ears are cool. And then I also forgot to have the bones, the indication of bones on our fingers. So Aerona is a custom species that I have yet to do anything with because it was sort of completely accidental. So that's just something I'm gonna have to figure out. The third eye was intentional. Originally it was a diamond, so you probably saw at the beginning of the video where I had her trying to have a diamond, because originally it was going to be a diamond, and then I decided against it because I decided, it'd be cooler just to have it be a third eye, because when I think of third eyes, I think of connections to the psychic realm or psychic abilities, or more specifically the spiritual realm. And since she is a lady of death, I thought, this makes sense. So I decided to make it a third eye instead of just a diamond, because I think that's pretty cool. So as you see here, I'm trying to figure out the definition of the fingers, and I decided I didn't like it, so I will be erasing it. And during this, I probably could have come on oh wait, I need to do skeleton, and I completely didn't. So there's that. I think it did come out well, though. I'm very proud and satisfied with how the end result looked. And I do have a color version, but I'm waiting to talk about the colors until that appears on screen. But I've been doing black and white for the previous years, so that's why I was challenging for myself to do it this year. So, and the hip bags, so obviously her clothes are very sleek. I was looking at different outfits, and I found an outfit where you have that sort of side, what's it called? That side buttoning style. I found it on some gothic thing, and so I'm I'll just choose that element. And then I decided to do that sort of color because I thought it looked cool. And then I added the hip belts that I've been using a lot in my art. And so I just added that, and boots are one of my go-to shoes. So I'm just I'm just gonna have her wear boots because I can, I guess. So I'm moving on to the colored version, so now I can actually talk about the colors. Now you will see a lot of like grays because grays are sort of that neutral color. You probably saw briefly I selected blue because in Minecraft souls are sort of colored blue, or it's associated with the color blue. But for my world, the color of pure energy is actually pink. So I decided to have it be more of like pinks and dark and like desaturated pinks and purples for Aerona, because that sort of links towards that color of energy, but also the element of space, because purple is space, the color of space in my world. So sort of like the space of after death or something. I didn't realize that, wait, she could also have spatial magic, and that sort of makes sense, because she does have the ability to go between whatever I end up the afterlife being and like the living area. So I guess there's that. Also, I don't know why I made her, in hindsight, I don't know why I made her sleeve so long. I just sort of did that because it looked good. It looked good to me, and that's why I wanted to do it. I eventually have like a lighter, yeah, there we go. I'm putting in the lighter shade of browns just because I think it looks a lot better, because the dark brown was a little too dark, so I wanted a lighter brown. And then me trying different palettes for the scale. And I was trying to draw from different parts of the image so that I could get something that looked good. And I eventually settled on that color that's sort of like a desaturated pink. In hindsight, I could have colored the ears, but I don't think I did in the final image. Oh, nope, I did. Never mind. There you go. Have the inside of her ears, because it's like the inside of the bat ears, and they're usually colored. So this will be putting in her name, and then I will be saving the different images. So, and I'll have those on screen. And thank you for letting me thank you for listening to me ramble about my character, because I really like her, and maybe next year I'll do more like character-centered videos. Odds are I'll probably not, because I'll have another channel that I'm busy with. It's a Minecraft channel, and you can get that. You can go find that through the links in the description that I'll have. But otherwise, thank you for just watching. Hope you have a good night, and goodbye!